Hello, everyone. My name is Theresa Hichens Olson, and I am the Director of College Access here at Great River. Hopefully, most of you know me. Your students know me. So I will get to know you pretty in depth over the next year. This is a college evening for just senior parents so that we can kind of talk about this process. I am going to share a very fun slideshow with you because, you know, it wouldn't be a webinar if we didn't do a slideshow. And then have some open question and answer time. Jean, I want to introduce Jean, who is here representing admin. She is the dean of, or the director of elementary. So there she is. She will help navigate the question and answer time for me because it's a little difficult to do both. But feel free, I'll make a couple pauses in the slide because it's a lot of information to go over. And so we are just gonna give a couple more minutes for people to come in and then we are gonna start. I know it's a crazy time for everyone and I just really wanna say that how much I appreciate you making time to do this with me. It is an interesting role to have 74 families in which I work through with this college process. So it's really helpful whenever we can gather and share information together, because I think that's a very Montessori way to learn, but also a very healthy community way to learn. So thank you again for making time. And I will start. So here we are at this college night for the class of 2024. I'm just going to adjust a couple of screens there. Again, I am Theresa Hichens Olson, and here we go. I am the Director of College Access. I am also a Bush Fellow for the state of Minnesota for Equity in Higher Education. I run also my own consulting coaching firm. So that's something that I do as well and something I'm very passionate about. So I work with counselors throughout the United States and also at local universities and also have coaching clients. And I think that makes me better at my job at Great River because it gives me this kind of universal overview. And I also really love to learn how other people are doing things. Mastery is super important to me and this continuous kind of learning journey that we're all on. So I also live it. I talk about it, but I live it. So I serve on the National Board for College Admissions Committees throughout the US. I'm at Bates now, and I just got asked to be on Colorado College National Board and also Lewis and Clark and Reed in Portland. So I look at accessibility. I look at this whole application process. I live and breathe college. It's kind of what I care about and I'm passionate, especially in terms of equity and reducing the amount of debt in this country, which is also very important to me. I am a Great River parent, so I had two daughters who attended Great River, and one went to Cornell University and then got her master's at Georgetown, and one is a very proud Carl and went to Carleton. So I have been through this process now as a parent, as well as all the different roles I have. I approach college and career access in a very holistic manner. I have a couple of clients right now who are calling me the college doula, and I kind of really like that. I believe this kind of birthing into this next almost adulthood is an incredibly magical and amazing thing. And I like that I get to be a part of that with your kids. That's super important to me. I believe that relationships matter. I hope on my best days and even my worst days that I always allow students to reinvent themselves. I think this college thing, you get to pick for the first time the way you want to learn or spaces where you learn best. And that's super exciting to see all that kind of click into place. I offer workshops and panel discussions from experts in the field, and I'm constantly involving program-based data. I'm a again, I hope your kids tell you about me. I'm a super big nerd and I embrace that nerd. I love research and I believe numbers always work. And so I'm always looking to make this system that we have at GRS one of the best in the country because I really like that data infused decision making. On that note, we have one college counselor and 74 students, with 92% going to 4-year college last year. So we're going to talk a little bit about expectations because I'm superhuman. I'm not superhuman. I'm very human. And so what we can do to all get through this door, because we're all going through this door at the same time. So welcome to the admission cycle of 2024, which is the biggest changes to college admissions in the history of college education in the last 50 years. And I say that because some of you are aware that the Supreme Court has reversed affirmative action, and that will affect all of us, not just people of color. It will have a lasting effect on the whole college systems as far as admissions. They have at the same time rebooted FAFSA for the first time. They had changed it a little bit before, but there will be a total reboot in the federal aid process. It has historically opened on October 1st, and it will open on December 1st. So that will be 2 months later, and that will affect some of that early decision candidates as well as some of those early action people, and we can talk a little bit more about that. I will say this a couple times, but if you have not read that book, How to Pay Wholesale for College, it's a wonderful financial planner who talks through that and some of those changes. So I would look at that new edition coming out. What tools does GRS supply for the college process? I have started workshops 2 weeks earlier than usual. So I started workshops on the 13th. I usually wait till the beginning of October. And what I'm seeing is that the college process is going faster than ever before. I also last year, as your juniors, as your students were juniors, started all of that much earlier. And trying to move more of that support into the end of their junior year so that they can hop on board to this very fast train that we're all going to be on. So there was a workshop right before the bike trip. There are 4 more scheduled that your students have gotten emails about. They are always happening on Wednesdays. They are always happening in Anu's room. They are always happening that Wednesday morning. And it is our time to get support. They are able to ask me any questions and what they need at that time. And we're all working again as a group to get through that doorway. So tomorrow they have been asked to bring their computers, a social security number if they have one, and make sure their computer is charged. And we're all going to make Common App accounts together. And I'm going to show them how that works. So those Wednesday workshops cover things like that. They also cover scholarships. They cover things like how to write an essay, how to do supplement and essays. And again, that is all happening together, and they are split into small groups. And it is the main support that we have because it's impossible for me to meet with 72 different people. For sometimes most people apply to 10 colleges. So you do the math. It's there. I have a fee waiver for applications, free and reduced lunch status, or any other obstacles. I tell the students all the time that this is super important to me as a first generation student, and I will remove any obstacle that keeps you from applying to college. And I have even told them, and I really truly mean this, I will pay the fee myself if it means them being able to apply to a school that they really want. So we have 3 meetings for family if needed. Most of you have met with me during the junior year. You have 2 senior years. I would say that most people save them till after all the money comes in and you're able to compare and we can talk that through. And that's all if needed. So I commit to write a reference letter for all students. I wrote 93 last year because we still were having the impact of students applying from COVID who maybe had taken a gap year. all those they're all individual letters, and they all kind of accent what I see as being special or unique about your kid. Again, I think that's why we get ranked up there at the top as being one of the most accessible college counseling programs in the country. So that's, I think those types of things and college visits as well make all the difference. Ratings, I do, the mid-year reports I do, and final reports. I have transcript forms available for colleges not on the Common App, but I ask, and I could yell this from the rooftops, every student should be using the Common App to apply to college if their college is on the CA. There are some schools like Georgetown where it's not, or Berkeley where it's not. But if it is, that hooks up to all the Great River. That helps the teachers put in their letters of rec, and it's very difficult to do it another way. It just doesn't work. And if all the parts aren't in, they don't even look at the application. I do reference forums, guide trainings, I do scholarship workshops, and I send out now monthly scholarship emails, and I list them outside my office as well. The Common App is listed there. I also run a Great River College Planning Facebook page, and I have personalized college visits, which hopefully all of you have seen, from all over the world, including community colleges and trade schools and gap year programs. So I work really hard on that list over the summer. I encourage students to come to as many, but at least 3, because you can't know what you don't know. So sit in a college visit, see what it's like. Other high schools aren't having schools like Dartmouth and Brown and Virginia Tech and all those other schools boat and fly to see us and meet you face to face. But we do have that, and we should take full advantage of that. I also have a list of graduate contacts who have gone on before you. And I always joke that they owe me. So they always talk to you and will talk to you about the college process, but also the school that they're in. And they love to share info. One of the reasons I work here is because of this amazing Great River community. And I think it's only getting deeper and bigger as we grow older. And I really want you to use that. I offer master panels of experts in the field, connection outside of GRS. I have coaching experts, internships, program connections, and again, more of that scholarship stuff. So the role of director, what I do is that I'm providing transcripts, the semester grades, writing those recommendations, holistic college career counseling, and problem solving. Again, we're talking about the amount of seniors that I have on my caseload. If you look at a school like Avalon, there are 3 counselors for their graduating class, which is smaller than ours. So these workshops are essential, but supplement support may be needed outside sources. Right now, as your students will tell you, I am meeting with students who are first gen, so they are first in their family to go to college. I am meeting with students who are applying, who know already that they're applying early decision, and I'm meeting with students who have IEPs, so they need a little extra support with navigating some of those processes. So that is happening. If your student doesn't fall into that category, they are still getting support. So they are still getting those Wednesday workshops. They're still getting me there on Wednesdays to talk through them after the workshops. And so they're still getting that time with me. It just isn't, it's in a bit bigger group. But we also have privacy and availability. What I don't do, my availability is based on school hours. So I do my best not to answer emails or on weekends or evenings. In this job, I've had people write to me on Christmas Day and ask for transcripts. So I ask that you look ahead for what you need and kind of plan that out. So I'm going to go over deadlines. And so thinking about what you as a student are going to need is super important in this process. Because again, I do my best to be accessible, but I also want to show you what it's like to be a healthy adult and to have really good boundaries, because I believe in that as well. And I believe that makes great programs. So one-on-one continuous support is an example for what a college coach would do. I offer those workshops and check-ins. I work to do overview of application per student, and I read every main essay. So I read 74 essays usually, for at least Great River. And if they make a draft, I will read it and give them notes on that. So I am committed to doing that as well. Breaking down the support, those sessions Wednesday. So September 27th, they should be working computer, social security number if applicable. Wednesday workshops are listed on my college board. We have college visits this week. Colorado College has already come. Chicago will come tomorrow. Brown is doing a virtual visit. And then Colorado Boulder will be here this week, and as well as Eau Claire. They are all happening in the UA Flex Room. All students must have approval from the guide for any missed class time. So we take that pretty seriously, as we have talked about in those Wednesday meetings, that this isn't the time to just skip GLOPO. So this is about coming in, meeting the admissions person who's going to decide whether you get a yes or a no, and for them to see a face. It's also important for them to get to know us as a community, so that saying no is harder for them to do when they see how amazing and unique and wonderful we are as people. And so that's something we're building, again, I believe, really highly on this relationship concept. So we're doing that as well. So I encourage again for students to come. They are only for seniors. And so it really is this quiet, wonderful space. The college fair, we have Minnesota College Fair on October 4th and 5th. We have the Twin Cities College Partnership. It is a fair at Minnehaha Academy on October 8th. That starts at 11. Students must find their own transportation, but I have bus cards available for this as well. And we encourage, again, same as with we encourage that carpooling. It is an excused absence for us legally for the state of Minnesota, but you have to bring in a note or the ticket from the thing so that we know that you actually went to the event. Senior year big deadlines. September 13th, November, we began the college workshops on Wednesday. September through November is those college visits. I don't have any visits after the November because I honestly want you to go to class and enjoy the rest of your senior year and have time to work on applications. November 3rd and November 10th, I'm at a college training, actually at Bates College in Maine. And so I will only be available by email during that time. And that's important for you early decision people to know, because November 1st and November 15th are early decision for some of colleges. So we're planning ahead, we're looking at what we need, and we're getting those applications in before that time frame. December 1st, FAFSA opens and stays open until June. Deadlines vary by college. October 1st, though, the CSS profile opens. So I've had a lot of people ask me about this change in the FAFSA. I am going to trainings to learn more about it, but those schools that are 100% need require the CSS profile. And so that is how they're going to decide what your aid is before they even get the FAFSA. Some schools do not require the CSS profile, and usually those are state university public schools. They are going to need you, if you are applying early action, to really file on that December 1st as soon as it opens that week. So that's something you can plan ahead for. October 1st, along with workshop, Theresa has check-ins, applying ED, first gen, students with IEP, and then we do all the early actions. November 1st, that early decision again, check-ins with the early action, students with 504s, and then general ed check-ins. December 1st is a priority deadline for some scholarships. December 15th is a priority deadline for most public universities, including the U of M. This is tricky, my friends, because if you look at the U of M website, you will see that you do not have to have your application until January 1st. But guess what? If you get it in by the December 15th, it sets you up for scholarships. And that middle time means that you did not meet the deadline for priority. And so you are not able to build what I say as a scholarship sandwich. So financial aid, internal scholarships and then external scholarships, which we'll talk more about. But that's always our goal, is to get money from every possible place that we can, and to graduate debt free, which we're doing at a higher rate than most high schools. December 30th, deadlines for regular decisions. School is closed. January 1st is another deadline for regular decisions. School is closed. January 15th, deadline for second ED and regular decision. All of these deadlines are posted outside my office. There are also sheets in that little box that tell you if you want them to have at home or to look at. If your students have included ACT scores, last year out of the graduating class, I believe we had 2 students who took the ACT scores, ACT test. You are responsible for submitting them. That is not hooked up to Great River. That is something that you must do separately, and I will teach or talk about that in one of the workshops on how to do that. But your application, if you want them included and you check yes on your college app, then you're going to have to be responsible for submitting them. And if they do not get them, they will not even read your application. So again, that applied to such a small number last year, and has historically for the last 3 or 4 years been declining. So schools like Caltech and MIT in Carleton, they are not looking at ACT scores. And so it depends. Actually, MIT may have changed their mind, but other people, you have to look at the school if they're looking at that. But even the tech schools now aren't using them for deciding admissions for the most part. Know the difference in VOCAP. Early decision is a legally binding agreement between colleges or universities. These are used for the hardest to get into school. So they're used for what we call Tier 1 LAC, which would be a liberal arts college, the Ivy schools, or hard to get into other public universities. The reason so COVID changed the whole admissions process. I mean, we're changing again because it never stays the same. But COVID changed the way that students applied. When my youngest daughter was applying to colleges, probably about 40% of students applied early decision. Last year, it was almost 70% of students. So that you see that huge growth in early decision. If you look at a school like Carleton, they are making up almost 60 to 70% of their class, their incoming class, in that early decision place. And so if you know that you have a pretty good idea, it's your dream school, it's 100% need school, so it's going to give you the most money possible. That is a good place to use that early decision card. You can only apply to one early decision. Students need to withdraw from other colleges once they are accepted. And the only thing that breaks this legal contract is for financial reasons. So we had several people break out of their contract in previous years because they were not given enough money to attend. So they don't really talk about this, but this is the loophole here. So if you aren't given enough the financial package that is doable for your family, that is a break in the contract. I would say they work really hard to make it so that it's not breakable. So they revise financial aid. They work really hard for you on that early decision because they want you there. That's why they've accepted you. Early action is getting your application in early, finding out early. So as students at the end of December and families gather and say, where are you going to college? You get to say, I've gotten in early action. People stop talking to you about it and asking you every 5 seconds where you're going to college. So it's also great for mental health to have a couple early actions. This is made for students who have strong GPAs. They don't need their senior year to prove that they're strengthened their GPA. Some of us need that. So early actions are not good for those students who need that senior year to show, hey, I had a rough start, but I've got it now, and I need that senior year first semester to show it. So you can have as many early actions as you want. Many colleges have internal early scholarships for applications, but don't rush it if it's not ready. So I have sometimes there's a lot of pressure for students to put in those early actions when their essays and things, supplements are not ready to go. And you get one shot at this. And so you actually make more money or get more scholarships if you produce the strongest application that you can. And that's just the truth of it. Rolling admissions is for first come, first serve and is non-binding. I tell students to treat rolling admissions like early actions if they're ready, and get those rolling admissions in as soon as possible, because again, with rolling admissions, they have just a pot of money, and they're giving that pot of money to the people who show up first. And so that's super important to know. A school like Augsburg will even give you a $2,000 early Augie scholarship for just getting it in before that early action deadline of November 15th. So you get it in there, and you get that 2,000 scholarship added to all 4 years. Also, Augsburg's a great school for instant admissions. So if you have higher than a 2.7 GPA, they have an instant admissions where you are instantly accepted. I'm going to stop and see if we have any questions in the Q&A. I know this is a lot to go through, and I'm trying to do it as clearly and as precise as I can. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm not hearing Jean or seeing anything, so I will again look at the there.
No questions at this point, Theresa.
Okay, thank you. Show me the money. So you hear me saying these words, and some of you may be like, I know what that word is. And some of you might be like, I have no idea what this woman is talking about. So what is the FAFSA? The FAFSA is a federal form that awards aid to students within the United States or students who have citizenship and live abroad. It changed this year, and it opens December 1st, and there is your link to that. If you do not have a social security number, we've had many students who are undocumented attend Great River. Or we've had students who do not live with their parents, or students who have alternative housing. I can help you navigate this. This should not be a hurdle that stops you from applying. And I have had I can name those students in my head, and they've all gotten full rides to college. So it's very doable. What is the CSS profile? So that's a different form. That is a form that is most used at those 100% need schools. So how do you know what schools use the CSS profile? Well, I'm going to show your students where it shows it on the Common App, but it's also Googleable. You can Google what colleges require the CSS profile, and you will be able to see that. We do not send the CSS profile to schools that don't need to know, because it is a deeper dig, and we don't want to give them any information that's not going to give us the most scholarships and most financial aid. So we don't need to do that at schools like U of M, lots of public universities. I would say probably 30% of the schools usually are requiring the CSS profile, so most of them are not. It is a deep dig into financials. They ask you things like, how much do you pay on your mortgage? What kind of car do you drive? Do you take care of an elder? Is there any debt that we should know about? So it isn't that they're trying not to give you money. Usually they're trying to give you more money. So they're doing a deeper dig into your assets. Theresa will be sending out videos in both English and Spanish that walk you through these forms. Again, that How to Pay Wholesale for College is a good book to read. Students last year, I think it was 3.2 or 3.4. I'm getting old now, so I'm mixing my numbers, but 3.6 something millions of dollars in scholarships last year for the class. Out of my 74 students, 22 had a full ride to college. That means they paid nothing and will not for their whole 4 years. That is something I'm super proud of. I tell my students that you like me now at 17 or 18, but you'll love me when you're 24 and you have choices of what to do in this world and what to pursue without that debt weighing you down, as I'm sure your parents have talked to you about. And there's lots of stories about it. So I work hard to provide scholarships every month, but students must make that effort as well. And yeah, there's a lot of myths out there about how to pay for school. So I try my best to translate some of those myths for you and talk about money in a real way.
Hey, Theresa.
I see a lot of questions. So
Yeah.
you
You
want to
ready
know?
for
Yeah,
him?
I am. That's my favorite.
Um, just want to confirm that you're going to share the link to this slideshow with parents.
Yep,
That
and the
was
video. So you get to watch me talk all over again in slow-mo if you want.
great. If do we need to complete the FAFSA for our student to qualify for merit-based scholarships?
Nope. So merit based is just what it sounds like. It's for those high GPAs. Everybody determines what a high GPA is individually for a college. So there isn't a rubric I can give you for that. Um, because the FAFSA has changed, I encourage every parent to fill out the FAFSA, even if they don't think they will qualify.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, So, on the whole, merit versus need, out of the money that you just reported, the three something,
Yeah.
do you know how much of that was need versus merit?
Oh,
And
super good
what
question.
is the potential for a merit scholarship full ride?
Oh, they're there. I would say I'm not gonna. I'm gonna say at least half, if not merit winning some more, because what works for us really well is being an IB school and having a weighted GPA. And so our GPA is much higher than a lot of schools that don't offer that. Um, Also, I am notorious for nomination scholarships. So those colleges that come, like Davidson is on there, Puget Sound is on there, they all have Colorado College, they all have scholarships just based for merit that are 4-year full rides. And so, and our kids are winning those and
Well,
have
then
them
I'll
in the
follow
past.
it up with the next question. What
Okay.
if our kiddo has not the best grades?
Yeah.
Will they still be eligible for some of this?
Oh, for sure. So we're going to talk a little bit about other programs and things, but Minnesota, we're signed up for Power of You, which is 2 years, full ride. Your income needs to be under, so it is income need. So your income needs to be under, I believe, 80,000, but it doesn't have any GPA requirement. So you have to graduate high school. And that is at our St. Paul College and MCTC. And Great River is a partner with them. So we've had students do that. I think everybody matures differently, and I think we should talk less about like GPAs and more how we learn, right? In places that you can learn well. And I want to say very clearly that GPAs have nothing to do with intelligence, right? It's just a rubric that someone made up. And so in the right place, I see students thrive. I've had students have lower GPAs and turn out to be, I have a president at Augsburg College right now who had one of the lowest GPAs in their class, but college was where she bloomed. And all of us have different rides in high school, right? So some of us are overcoming trauma. Some of us have mental health issues. Some of us have learning disabilities where we're learning what supports work for us and don't. So this is not about exclusion for anyone. This is about finding inclusion for everyone to find a place where they can learn and find a career that they love. That's my long answer. Sorry,
Thank
Gigi.
you, Teresa. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and we have a parent that wants to know how we identify the GRS grads who are at the schools that our students are interested in or accepted to.
So they asked me. So if you're trying to decide between Puget Sound and Whitman, at the end, and both have given you equal scholarships, and it feels like the student loves both programs, they come to me and say, can I talk to someone? Or maybe you have 3 or 4 schools that you're trying to decide from. That's when we get those numbers back, when we're seeing what our real life decision is. We talk a lot about building like a college buffet. So for ourselves, that's super important.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more and then I'm going to mute because my dog is barking.
Yes.
Um, the fee waivers for applications and CSS. Do we need to request this sooner than later to get the process going?
No, it's just paperwork for me. So, it's nice to have you ask relatively, not the night before. But if you qualify for a free or reduced lunch, or it's a barrier, or you've had something happen where maybe you didn't qualify, but somebody lost a job, or you have a parent that's sick, any financial barrier, that's a huge thing. I just fill out the paperwork for that. And so that that's pretty doable. Are we good for the next? Oh, I'm going to assume.
I think we're good.
Okay. So what can your student be doing now? So I'm all a big believer in getting information. So I'm also a big believer about mapping things out. So attending these workshops and visits and various support, it makes me sad inside when we have a great school come and only 2 people show up. And that really, even if you don't know if it's a school you'll like, coming to those college visits tells you a lot, because you're able to know about those scholarships then. It might make a difference if you got a $20,000 scholarship, or a school like Cornell College, who said everybody in this meeting is eligible and most likely will receive a $30,000 scholarship. And that really excited a lot of people. And we had 2 students who went there last year and both got that money. So it's important to look at those schools, or you'll have a school like Earlham who says, I will fly out everyone in this room to take a look at this school if they're accepted. So those things happen on a daily basis, and I want you to look at those opportunities. Create a list of deadlines and work to balance your time. So think about balance. I'm really a big believer in that, in mental health and taking time and pausing when you feel overwhelmed. You don't have to figure it out by yourself. So I'm here to support you to do that. Set yourself up for success this first semester. Colleges will ask. So protect that GPA, show them what you know, and also pay attention to how you learn. GRS is a great fit for some and not a great fit for other people. So maybe you want a college, like I tell people, like the College of Atlantic, where the whole college takes place on a boat. Maybe you want to be at somewhere like University of Wisconsin Stevens Point, where you're fishing, where you actually fish all day and you get a 4-year degree in fisheries. That might be the ideal place for you. So pay attention to where you find your joy. Create a list of colleges that meet your specific needs based on programs, financial need, and opportunity. A good college list should always have a dream school where it feels like you won the lottery, a safety school, and admissions rates that match your profile as a student. So don't pick 10 schools that all have a 5% acceptance rate. That's not a healthy list. I tell my students and clients, it's like building a buffet. I may not know exactly what I want to eat that day, but I do know I will always like pizza on my buffet. And pizza is one of my good foods, and sushi and those things. So I build a buffet that has lots of choice for me. So that's what we're doing with that college list. And that is probably the most strategic. When you all talk about money this year, number 2, that college list is the thing that is going to give you the most opportunities. So if you have great need, look at those 100% need schools. If you have a kid who has a high GPA, look at those merit schools. If you have a kid who has art or music or those talents, or spends a lot of time doing service or cares about social justice. There are schools that give more money based on those interests and also are passionate about those types of kids. College tours explore that possibility. That how do you find out that stuff is, doing those web searches, looking at environments that work for them, letting go of this need to know exactly what you want to be. Nobody, guys, here's a secret, none of us really know what we want to be. We keep doing this thing in metamorphosis, this lifetime that we have. So let your kids metamorphose. So they may have not been the best student in high school. They may have had to figure some things out, but they get to still have what is possible. So be open to those possibilities and the yes. And again, the doors that we shut are the ones that we close ourselves. And don't let anybody shut a door on you. And if somebody shuts a door on you, then we, as Great River students, we go through the window. So that's what we do. Next thing, what as parents or caregivers can we be doing now? You will use your tax forms from the last year. Complete FAFSA and CSS profile if needed. FAFSA only counts one custodial parent. So how do you decide that if you both have equal custody? Great question. So the thing is strategically, you should look at whatever parent is making the least taxable income and use that. Also, the parent who has claimed that student on the taxes. So there is a tax trail, but you do not need to list both parents on that FAFSA, which is lovely for some people. Show debt that may not show up on taxes. They ask for other information. So if you have medical bills, aging parents, etc. I always joke with my daughter that the best thing to happen to us was when a tree fell on our house, because we got to list all that debt on her college application. So they will ask that stuff in the CSS profile, and also they'll give you a space for listing it in the FAFSA. It's a new world. So that's important for parents to realize that the college process is totally different than when you were younger. For example, I would say the question or thing that I'm asked about most is the Common App essay. Yes, it's important, but it is by far not the most important thing in that application. Usually the supplements outweigh that, honestly. And so we didn't even have supplements when we applied to college. So we don't even know the language of things that are happening. The average person, again, 5 years ago was applying to 6 or 7. Right now we're at 10 to 12 colleges. So it's almost doubled. It's totally different. The data is showing a whole new world in college admissions, which you could read endlessly about if that's fun for you. Find balance as a family in this college process. Look at dates, deadlines, but don't pressure. Also talk about money. Do the college calculator. Do things like that. Don't be afraid to talk about that with your kids. That's how they learn to deal with things like money and debt. So make sure that you're doing and talking about that. Reinvention. Again, every student should have the opportunity to reinvent themselves, both academically and socially. Check in, but let students have ownership of this process. Students will not feel invested in what they haven't invested in. So if you're the one to pick as a parent all the colleges that they're applying for, it is almost guaranteed that they won't have the same investment. You're invested in going and probably wish you could, but they won't have it, and they need to have it, because if they don't feel like it's a place they can build on, they'll just shut down and not build. So that's important that they feel a part of that community. What are the parts of the student application? Student info, Common App essay, supplement essays. Sometimes, not all colleges require them. Colleges like U Chicago have you write a whole nother almost 1,000 words. So they can be big. I call them Pandora's boxes. They're not fun. You open them up and you're like, oh, fun, another 2 essays. Interviews sometimes are very helpful. Visits both online and in person. Demonstrated interest. So I love this story because I think it wasn't fun when it was happening, but it really shows what demonstrated interest happens, what is real. So demonstrated interest is if we have a college visit, does that student come? If they come to Great River, does that student come? If they can weirdly track whether you open an email from them or not. So if Pitzer sends you an email and that's your number one school and you don't open it, they can see that you don't open it. And so we had a student who had an incredibly high GPA, full IB diploma, applied Pitzer, and was waitlisted. And what you all don't see behind the scenes is me fighting for your kids and calling admissions officers and saying, what the heck to happen? Why is this happening? And why is she on this list, and get her off right now? And what they said is the student never opened an email from them or came to anything that they had in the community. And so they thought that she didn't want to come. And that was hard for both of us to take in. And so again, I want to say very clearly, if you are interested or care about a college, show them that. And you show them that by making effort, which I know is another thing you have to do on top of so many things you have to do. So I'm not saying every school, but if it's in your top 3, make sure you do that. CSS profile is only for some schools, and they are generally 100% need schools. Custodial waiver can be filed if only one parent is financially responsible. So in the CSS profile, it does ask for 2 parents, but not all of us have 2 parents who are financially responsible for us. And so that we can do a waiver, and I'm happy to do the documentation for that. Minnesota Dream Act, I'm able to walk through that for anybody who's undocumented, and they're guaranteed aid as well. Transcripts up to junior year, first quarter grades are the form. So I take a snapshot in December and I send grades to every school that your student has applied to. So it's important to have those strong first quarter or first semester grades. They're not official grades, or official grades do not come out until the end of January. So what I'm doing is, again, an unofficial transcript in December. I do a student eval, a counselor form, and I write that letter of rec, and I rate all the IB classes as far as difficulty. And they also have guide letters of rec. Final report, fun fact, if you have A's and B's and all of a sudden decide to senior slide and get a D, they can take back everything they gave you, including scholarships. And yes, it has happened. And then again, I get in there and fight. What other supports do we have besides this 4-year college? I am by no means saying that this is the path for every single person. I am saying that degrees open doors for most jobs. And I want as many open doors or as many possibilities for you that you get. I'm not saying that the smartest people in the world go to 4-year colleges. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying the hardest working people in the world go to 4-year colleges. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that my job is to remove obstacles for you so that is a possibility, no matter what your high school experience has been. So GRS offers connection to community college visit days, workshops, and internships. I, again, do that grant for the Power of You program so that any GRS student with no GPA requirement can take classes for those first 2 years free at a community college, and they can be a variety. You can get certified as a welder or a chef or various other things, electrician, and it's all paid for by the state of Minnesota for those income needed programs. CAS, community action and service, are built into this GRS time so that you can try different jobs. I am never going to be the person who gives your child a quiz to see what they want to be in the world. Because honestly, those things are just, they're kind of wacky, and they never, like, I think, like, they say things like, you're going to be an undertaker when you really have a passion for teaching. So, and it kind of messes you up in the head. But I am there to really listen to your kid and to talk about where their fit is and again, what brings them joy. So connections to those tech and trade programs and scholarships. We also offer gap year support, um, with gap year fairs, how to write a gap year plan if you wanted to do that, and counseling on what to do after a gap year. So I had a student stop in today who graduated in 2018 and was working in the field, working as a mechanic, and he came back today and said, Teresa, I want to go back to college now. And so I tell you, I'm your counselor for life or until I retire. So I was happy to fill in that. And his gap year was actually 3 or 4 years. So it goes there. Connections to Rotary scholarship programs. We've had a lot of students do this. So this is having the federal government pay for a year abroad. So those, I'm able to help walk you through that as well. Now, what do I do? So visit schools, come to a visit, make a list of what feels good, what doesn't appeal to you, pay attention to how you feel in different learning environments, ask those real questions. So I want my kids to ask those questions about student support, if they're trans, what housing looks like, what different classes are available, what happens if you have a parent who gets sick and you need to go home, like those real things. How do you handle, how diverse is it? How do you talk about inclusion? Like those real things that make a difference for you in a learning environment. Identify your greatest needs, support money, and talk to those admissions officers. Look at deadlines and map out workload so not everything is due at the same time or you're waiting to the week before, because that's not good for either one of us. Work together as a family, not to plan vacations during these deadlines, and use those college calculators at various colleges and talk about the money. COVID has changed so many things. How have colleges responded to that as far as student support and mental health? Those are important things to talk about. Colleges do their best to understand, but it's also our job to explain the gaps, and that goes back to transcripts actually. So say you got all passes in 1 year. Maybe you had COVID a couple times or missed some chunk of school. That's our job. Or maybe it was just hard for you to concentrate, or you had struggles with your own mental health. Like we talk about those things and we explain them, because if we don't, they jump to conclusions. So I'm going to have some open questions time. We can't know what we don't. We can't know what we don't know, and that's probably should be the theme of college applications. Ask and keep asking those questions. My email is right here. I also listed fly-in programs that if you don't have resources to visit schools, you can fly in. We've had students do that or are doing that right now. Virtual visits are part of every college program. Attend college fairs and explore campuses. Be strategic, and I love Google. It's an amazing tool. I learn a lot. So, Jean, can you hit me with some questions?
I sure can. The first one is regarding the Minnesota State universities and colleges offering free applications for the month of October.
Yeah. Did you
Does
see
this
that?
mean,
Yeah, go ahead. I just
does this
posted that on our Facebook page. So yeah, go ahead.
does this mean they all have rolling apps and need to be in this month?
No, I mean, I would say so. It's not for any of our University of Minnesota schools. So it's kind of deceiving. So it isn't for like the University of Minnesota Duluth, and it isn't like for the University of Twin Cities. They usually give us a waiver when you come to those visits a lot of times as well. So it is for like St. Cloud State. So it's anything that has Mankato State. Um, and you can submit it on the Common App and it will still give you that free application. What most people don't realize is beautiful McAllister and St. Olaf, which are 100% need, and Carleton, all waive their fee all year long for Minnesotans who are applying. So that's also important to know.
Okay, here's a very specific question about getting someone got an extension on their 2022 taxes
Mhm.
and will submit them just before the mid-October deadline. Will they
Yep.
still be able to complete the FAFSA?
Yep, because you'll have till this, well, you'll have to December 1st. So according to the federal government, all that stuff is going to be hooked up in the retrieval tool. And so you'll be able to still submit it. So it opens December 1st, it doesn't close till June. So first time you can submit them is that December 1st.
Okay, the next one is whether you all help students understand whether or not they should take out loans or discuss wise loan amounts for an undergraduate degree.
Oh, for sure. We totally talk about that. And we talk about how to compare um, packages. So, say if one school, that's why it's important to have a healthy list. Say one school gives you more money, like Cornell College gives you 30,000 in scholarships, and Luther gives you 20. So, what we do is we talk about how to get Luther to match Cornell College. So we talk about how to write what's called a financial appeal letter and get more money from our number one schools. So we go through that. I go through how to read a financial aid letter. I go through that nothing is free in school. Like when they say there's free pizza downstairs, you're actually paying quite a bit of money for that pizza. Um, so we talk about that and how to use your aid smartly. Like you can use your aid to go abroad, as my daughter did 3 times at Carleton, and used her aid to pay for every single thing, including plane tickets. So that was important.
Is there somewhere where we can find a list of 100% need schools?
Yep, it's listed on the Facebook page. I also have it in I can put it on this slide when I send it out. In the tools section, I can add that as well. It's also very Googleable. I love that saying that word. And you can write 100% need schools and I'll break it down with loans or without loans.
All right. Is there a website that sorts
Nope, we lost G and everyone.
Oh, let me try it again.
Yeah.
Is there a website that sorts colleges by whether they're merit-based or interest-based, subject-based?
Oh,
And same person followed up is what's the best way to research types of colleges and best fit?
so I try to put all those helpful links on the Facebook page just because it's helpful for all of us. But there are places like College Greenlight, which I've shared with your kids, that have like list of a lot of that. It's that Venn diagram where everybody's trying to make their perfect potion, right? So all of us are different, so there's not like one place where we're all going to have the same kind of recipe that works for us. So the answer to that is to look at your specific needs as a family, and kind of compare those lists, and you will see that overlap. That's a great question.
Okay. What is the difference between FASA and FAFSA?
Oh, probably me. There's that I was probably like trying to make the FAFSA. There's no difference in the FAFSA. Humanness is the difference.
When looking at Did you hear that? When looking at your student's GPA, is it weighted or unweighted on the transcript?
It is weighted because we don't list that everything is pre-IB, but it is. And so we're looking at that as being weighted. I report everything as a weighted GPA at the bottom of the transcript.
Okay, is there anything we should know when we're reaching out to admissions offices on our own to make sure we're making the best impression?
Ooh, great question. One, I think that it's really important to be kind and respectful of their time. And so don't overload them with lots of questions, use the time that when they come to Great River to ask a lot of those things. If you're doing something like an interview, um, always write after the interview to say thank you for meeting with me and something that you learned from that experience. Not everybody does interviews, and it's not appropriate for everybody to do interviews, right? So for some of us, that's not our strength. But I always laugh that I asked one kid once how his Stanford interview went, and he said it was perfect, it was great. And I said, well, what did you say in the thank you note? And this kind of blank look came over their faces. So I reiterate that you always say thank you to people when they give you their time. We also thank our teachers. We talk a lot about doing an act of kindness for those teachers who are not paid to write a letter of rec or given any time to write letters of rec during school. And so they are home Saturday, Sunday morning after they've already worked a 40 to 50-hour week writing letters of rec for your kids. And so we're always grateful and do some act of kindness for them, whether that be a cup of coffee or helping them with their room or baking them cookies or doing kindness back. Because I'm a big believer that kindness actually does something magic in the world. And that works. It does. Next question, Jean.
What's the process if you apply early decision and don't get the financial aid needed to attend?
So another great question. You set up a meeting with the financial aid person, and they'll have meetings with parents and the student, and they'll go through your whole FAFSA and sometimes CSS profile, and they'll tell you why they came to this conclusion. And it could be sometimes you have people have hidden assets that they don't realize, like they might own properties that helps that they don't talk about necessarily or even think about. So that's important, and they will work to try to get that number down so that it's affordable and doable for your family. They very do not want to give up their ED kids. They feel very protective of them, and they work as hard as they can to make it affordable for your family. But you should do the calculator and know, right? So the calculator is not accurate at all, but it does give you a ballpark. I would say it usually says you're going to pay more money than you ever do. It doesn't go the other way.
Will there be different types of universities at the two college fairs?
Oh yeah, hundreds. So you can look that up. There's hundreds and hundreds. It's mind blowing.
Would reaching out to college admissions to ask about chances for admissions be wise?
No, I mean, that's something that you can look at their acceptance rate. You can look at, you can talk to me about. Um, it's kind of like, yeah, it isn't, you want to show them why they want you and what you bring to the college campus. So no, I personally wouldn't do that.
Well, that is the end of our questions for this evening, Teresa.
All right. Thank you. And we're only 3 minutes over, Jean. I feel like we did an incredible job. Thank you for taking time to help me with this. And a big thank you to everybody who came tonight. Again, I am going to record this, and I'm told by the powers that be that it will be sent to you in the next couple of days along with the slideshow. So thank you all.